Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
And it feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things, of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light, when you hit that first joint, in the morning, and you.
I actually feel a lot more awake.
So it's been a little while since we talked. Would you like to pick up with something we were talking about before, or do you have something new or some other part that you'd like to get to know or change your relationship with?
I'm trying to think. I just consider a couple of different things that are going on and how I've reacted to them. I think I'm doing a decent job of just being curious about the experience and not reacting, but I would. I'll just mention one, but I think I want to work around the other. One is there's a woman I've been dating. I don't know. I've not called it dating. We're just really good friends. We enjoy each other's company, and it's friends with benefits, and I'm more okay with that than calling it dating because I just had needed to give myself time after. It hasn't even been 2 years since being divorced, and it takes a long time to unravel all the dynamics that were there and the effect on my nervous system and everything. So, but she's been really, really awesome. We spent a lot of time together, and I thought, I don't want this to become much more. I just all these things, but she's been a pretty amazing person to me. She loves my kids too, and so I've grown more fond of her. But she's applying for a position at Gonzaga University, so she may be heading east to Roanoke, Washington, I guess. And it's not a huge thing because we've always kept this kind of boundaried. This isn't going to be something. So that's one thing going on. But I just feel really good about that. I know there'll be an emotional aspect if she does get the job and has to go there. But she's also talked to me about, would you consider coming out there? And I'm like, well, I don't know. It would take a lot of work, but I would consider it if I came out there and really loved it. And if I still need to make sure my two younger ones get kind of started, so they might have to come with. So that would be considering a lot of different factors and having to sell the home and all those things here. So that's going on. Yeah. But I feel really good about it. I don't have this, oh no, she's going to leave. And I'm kind of in a good place. But when it comes to some of the stuff I mentioned and did talk about before, reacting to feeling treated unjustly and shamed and things like that, and in my workplace, or at least where I train and teach. I've had some really awesome venting sessions with friends, and actually just met with a woman that I trained and went through our coach training, who is also really, really good at management, and she's really good at the workflow side of business and all these things. And so I'm trading services with her. I'm actually coaching her husband in some somatic work and trying to help him get some better sleep, and she's helping me work on the business side of my getting better, creating an email list, doing things that I'm just not good at. And so I actually talked with her earlier this morning. I hadn't talked to her in 2 or 3 weeks. And it was really, really good to have a conversation after I'd vented to other people and kind of shared my frustrations and, not taking action, just kind of keeping my head down, doing my work, jumping through the hoops that I was asked to jump through after things went down at work, and then just kind of keeping my head down, doing the work. And she was able to share with me today from a perspective of, she's worked at a university and been involved with the dynamics of being kind of the person in the middle, is how she described it, right? I have my bosses that own the organization I work with or a contract for, and then me, and then the students, right? And I'm in this place in the middle, and really was good. She kind of took me into this third-party observer place, and while I hadn't reacted, I'd given myself a couple of weeks, and I already felt a lot better about where I was. Today, I even feel more grounded. I feel comfortable in the gray and just letting it be, and having the perspective of this is, whether it's a trauma training, and, we have a lot of grace, and we offer, a lot of understanding for people when life happens. It's growing, and it's still a corporation. It's still a company, that has aspects that need to be developed. We're kind of building the plane as we're flying it. So, but it gave me some needed perspective, which was really good. I had a lot of shame, though. I think we've talked about that before. I had a lot of shame kick up, and I felt really hurt and disgusted, but it was good to have that perspective of understanding that, I essentially reflect the owners by being that person in the middle, and they had their reaction and I had my reaction to them, but I need to step back and just understand, or at least contemplate that, maybe we don't have all the things in place yet to make this a smoother transition or a smoother recovery or repair when missteps happen. But the key right now is to just not react and not allow my emotional baggage or my scared or hurt parts to take over and start black and white thinking, and, I can't be here, I gotta leave, I'm not gonna deal with this anymore, or whatever. So that dynamic, there was obviously a lot more emotion, even when I shared with Sherry, the coach that I'm working with. I was like, wow, I kind of just wanted to share this so you knew what was going on and we could talk about it. But I was pretty animated. I wasn't upset, but there was definitely some emotion still in there.
And that's the emotion that you're saying you're feeling more comfortable with now?
Definitely more comfortable with. And I think the hurt being, coming from some of my oldest parts, maybe 3-year-old, and, because there's a lot of the 3-year-old part, especially holding on for so long, and doing a lot of the heavy lifting of just being hyper vigilant. So here, feeling like the guard was let down a little bit because we thought we trusted people, and then feeling mistreated was really difficult for, a week especially. And then it got a little better, and then it got a little better. But, going to now being able to understand that and look at it through the lens of, wow, what growth, what ability to understand that it's okay to have the emotional experience, and we have people to reach out to and vent, and that can be released. And, I can contemplate how that felt for the different parts, and even for Will, the part that's here in the forefront, trying to understand the whole dynamic and why some of these reactions happen. It just was, I don't know. It was kind of healing across the board. I'm grateful now for the experience instead of feeling hurt and mistreated.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
This all sounds really good.
Yeah, I'm not sure. In thinking about, do I have? I think the second time we met, we talked a little bit more about getting in touch with the self, and I'll get a little, when I start to go internally, I'm able to identify a 3-year-old and then about a 13-year-old, and then coming to understand that there's probably been a lot more of self present, but I'm just not aware. Or it's maybe taking it's there in the passenger seat more so than in the back seat. And I'm just becoming more aware of it over time that, I do really have this awareness. This self is able to kind of integrate the messages that are being received from the younger parts.
Yeah. I like to think of it like, well, it's kind of like you said, being in a different seat where, there's kind of a percentage of how much we're being driven by what parts versus the self. So,
yeah.
I think the goal is to have self leadership. But that doesn't mean that, we're just, it can mean a lot of things, and it can look a lot of ways where parts are still very active and doing important roles, and like you said, we're kind of integrating the messages from them, and tending to them when they're feeling extreme or overwhelmed.
Yeah. Ultimately, I'd like to be, like creating a somatic practice of having to take conscious time to create a habit, at certain points of my day to check in and do some exercises and just tuning into where I'm feeling tight, where I'm feeling emotional, and trying to identify or attach, or not meaning to it, and just processing and being with it. It's very similar. I would like to create similar practices and checking in with those parts and just kind of seeing where they're at, and if some of the and integrating the two of those, right? There's some of that emotions coming from those different parts, and I can attach, this shame is coming from this 3-year-old part of really feeling like, oh my God, we trusted, we said we were never going to do that again, and look, we got hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's certainly something I like exploring and talking about how to make that a regular practice. So
yeah,
I'm happy to talk with you about that all you like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What have you tried already in that regard?
I haven't set aside a time, or I'm going to check in with my body and check in with the emotional state from the perspective of being IFS focused. I'll do some somatic exercises and just check in with where I'm feeling, especially with physical sensations. If I have tightness, or in the last couple of weeks when I've had this more shame and emotions, I've spent more time just doing the things that I know are beneficial, habits that I already have that help me to regulate my nervous system and to feel present and calm, but not necessarily stepping into the place of thinking, well, can I be curious? Who's in the room? Who's feeling this emotion, and how can we meet you there? And so I haven't really done much of that at all. And I think it's, we go to our survival patterns, and in the past it would have been shut down or whatever. Now I've got a lot of other pieces of the puzzle and different mechanisms in play that are beneficial to do that. I just don't have this one as a habit yet. So I'm open to suggestions as to how to approach that, especially knowing what you know about my parts already. If there's a recommendation as, I want to try this, or at this time, do this, or I'm open to different things. I've done many, many things along the healing journey for a long time, and some of them I kind of want to do more of, but I have a really hard time creating a habit, like journaling.
Sure.
Used to be movement or yoga, or slowing down and becoming mindful was more difficult, but that's gotten easier. So yeah, I'm kind of open to suggestions.
Well, it sounds like you have so much of the right start. I mean, what you're talking about, and I'd like to hear more about it, of, when you're feeling a tightness or whatever, you're checking in with the body. And that is the same first step of IFS, is that this is a, parts live in the body, and this is a body-centered practice fundamentally. So that's always where we start. So the fact that you're already doing that, and you're already, the kind of next question of like, who's in there, which is, it's just taking that, addressing the feelings and talking to them, saying, okay, this is a part. When you're doing your somatic practice, like, what's an example of that? Like, if you had a tightness somewhere, what would a somatic check-in look like?
It generally starts out with, if I'm sitting in a chair, which is generally the case. I haven't done a lot of laying down on a bed or couch or a massage table. I don't have my massage table out right now. So generally sitting in a chair and just getting kind of grounding and orienting. So noticing my butt in the seat and checking in with my midline and doing a little rock side to side, doing a little rock back to front, and trying to make sure that I'm in alignment. Checking in with the sense of feeling like my spine is supported and straight and not leaning forward or back, not feeling like I'm going side to side, that I just feel like things are where they should be, so that it feels like I'm sitting on my sit bone and not, my posture is good. And that comes from the neuroaffective touch work of just knowing that we have the disconnect that can happen between mind and body, and even through every joint of our body, the diaphragmatic gateways, or chakras, what they call them from Eastern medicine, and just knowing that in checking in with side to side, I'm checking in with that and how I feel connected side to side. That's my first move generally. And then, kind of scanning. Sometimes I'll do it more depending on how activated I feel. I might start at toes and go all the way through the body and go up to the head. And sometimes it's just, hey, where do I feel more tension right now? And I just kind of give some attention there. Can I give some nurturing touch? So whether it's a self hug, or I start to do one of the exercises I've learned where I might work down the arms, or work with the feet or the legs, or even go to the thoracic inlet, working around the throat. Sometimes I'll give attention to the eyes or the ears. So all of it, no matter where I go with it, I just kind of check in with myself and go, well, what do I think would be beneficial? And no matter what, wherever I check in with my body, there's always a calming benefit, a kind of getting more into a homeostasis of just the breath becoming deeper, and more of just the cellular breath just happening without me thinking about it, instead of it feeling shortened, and noticing that shift back into out of being more highly activated and more into the rest and digest.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm, since I've done the training enough, I've done through that foundational training twice, and I've assisted, and I've been doing this for a while. So it's shifted for me from when I first started of thinking, wow, this is amazing. It's great. It's the next best part, to realizing that, somatic work's a piece, but it can also be a piece that becomes kind of an addiction, just like anything else that's really beneficial that we might identify as a spiritual awakening or whatever. That it's a thing that works, but if we don't take into account all the other pieces of the puzzle, it can be something that we chase, like another addiction. So being aware of that, makes me want to, that's kind of what's led me to wanting to be curious about IFS. And
So, you're in that self-energy place of wanting to offer your own body nurturing touch and love, and you're able to do that. I can imagine, like you were saying, that being kind of an addiction. If you take the assumption that there are parts, if you take the assumption that there is you do have an inner 3-year-old, then, if the part is activated and needs attention or is trying to get your attention, and the tool is, I don't want to sound condescending, but it's merely somatic.
right.
The tool is, okay, now I'm grounded, and it might miss out on the dialogue, the experience that part is trying to share with you. And, it doesn't have to be in dialogue. Some parts are pre-verbal, but I think a lot of times in IFS, people are, they're seeing these memories that have been locked up for a long time, and it's through conversation. So it is kind of a different or a complementary, mode to access whatever's causing that tension, if you will.
My experience of just having, working with you and having Dr. Schwartz come do our webinar and experiencing, basically having him do a session with the whole group and feeling the similarities to the way the body responds to the nurturing touch is very similar to how the body responds to a true IFS session where we're touching into parts and having kind of the inner dialogue. So to me, what I identify that with, because this comes also from the training that really goes deep into some of the additional training I've gone to after the foundational neuroaffective touch, was really getting into the implicit memory and early memory stored in the brain cells that are in our gut and in our heart, and then the right side of the brain, the first part to develop before we're verbal. So to me, when we have these body memories that we identify in IFS, we're just having a conversation with what the somatic identifies as that emotion in the body, and that emotion is that memory of that smaller part, that younger part.
Yeah, because that memory happened to a person.
Yes.
And it was experienced through the lens of a person, and so that would make sense that would be kind of like, well, let's talk to that person, rather than any other approach. I think kind of misses the person that experienced it.
Yeah.
So I have a couple ideas about just parts check-in that I think you could probably do right along with what you're already doing, that wouldn't necessarily require any extra, setting aside more time or more building in some new habit. Well, I think, yeah, to add on to what you're already doing would just to probably add the question of like, when you're scanning inside, you find some tension. You might just, while you're focusing on it, ask yourself, how do you feel towards that tension? So if you just hate how tight your shoulders are, well, it's going to be hard to do what you're calling nurturing touch. It's like, so that's kind of another first step, or a second step is kind of check in with how you feel about the tension, which I think you're already able to do that and practice at that, and then maybe follow that up with just trying the dialogue. Just try asking, what is this part of me want me to know? And just kind of throwing that out there. What do you want me to know? What do you want me to know about you? What do you want me to know about the job that you're doing? And just kind of that might be it. If that's all you did was just add that question, I think you probably get some good results there, and might meet a whole lot of other parts, and might get a whole lot of responses.
I was grabbing a piece of paper. What was the first question that you suggested? Like noticing that spot. I just wrote that one down.
So the first question is kind of for yourself, of how do you feel towards it?
Okay.
And so, yeah, if I have a pain in the neck and I just hate this pain in the neck, and it's stupid, and it's I just want to get rid of it. Well, that's, then you need to address that. But if you can get to that place of, okay, let me ask that angry part to step aside so I can nurture this hurting part. Once you can get to that, then you ask this part, what does it want you to know?
Gotcha.
What does it want you to know about its job? What does it want you to know about about itself? Any of those?
Want me to know about its job? Yeah. Okay, beautiful. I think that's enough. You're right. I don't want to.
Yeah,
I don't need a list of questions. It needs to be very simple.
Yeah, you'll get answers, and I assume you'll get answers, and then you'll have lots of grist for the mill of, okay.
Yes.
there was a part in there. There was a part I haven't met, or I'm not as, I thought this part was all fine now, but there's more it wants me to know. And so, all kinds of, again, additional questions you would follow up with, or I can help you with. But yeah, that's kind of the first one.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. That's it's a good place to kind of stick a pin in it.
And then if I can just, so kind of a separate practice would be to take the parts you already know and just say hi to them for 1 minute a day. I already know that there's a 3-year-old in there. I already know what he looks like. I know what he does. And at this time of day, I say, hey, how you doing? Again, is there anything you want me to know? Is there anything you want me to, just anything, just spend a minute. That would be kind of my other, it's a separate, or not necessarily starting the same way. It's a little more, it's a little more proactive on you're going and looking for this part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I do with my daily check. I do both. So yeah, when I'm tense, I check in with the tension, but then I also have just my daily meditation that I do every morning, and that's part of it. Is I got my list of parts, and I say hi.
Yeah, I like that. That's definitely, it definitely feels right with where I'm at right now. It's not complex, it's simple, and it's starting to similar to what I do and what I ask clients to do in checking in with emotional to work somatically. So it just fit right alongside that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, you have talked about, 2 or 3 parts. I think in my limited experience, I think most people, there's probably a couple dozen in there at least.
Yeah.
Some people have said that you I forget the quote, but it's something like, something about you have a part for every age that you've been.
Yeah.
Like there's every time you experienced anything was a different part of you, basically, that was experiencing that and stored that memory somewhere. So
I like that. I've taken that approach, I think, as a dad with my kids, of trying to remind them to stay in touch with, not to necessarily just grow up and lose sight of things that they enjoyed when they were kids. So that perspective of like, remember, you've got a 1-year-old, you got a 2-year-old, you got a 10-year-old, you got a 15-year-old, you got all these parts and the things that they were into. It's okay to tune into those things once in a while and remind yourself that, when you were 4, you were into My Little Pony and, kind of touch into that part once in a while, yeah. So it seems so natural in parenting, why, when we're doing the work of repair and around complex trauma or whatever, or just tough times and wanting to, however we identify it as depression or anxiety or whatever we want to work through. I think that we lose sight that we still need that kind of a parenting of ourselves.
Well, it's one of the metaphors that they use a lot in IFS, is they say this is attachment parenting turned inward.
I like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, James. Thank you for your time today and meeting with me, and thanks for the check-in. Right, it's been a little bit. I appreciate the text and.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm here, and I enjoy talking with you a lot. So, feel free to book another time, and we can talk like this too. We can talk about IFS, or we can do IFS or whatever. I'm up for it all.
Sounds good. All right. I appreciate it.
Nice talking with you.
Yeah, I'll just put it out there that I'll check in with myself. I know that I've got to work for another week or so, and then I get a bit of a break from being on so much, and I may just take that time as downtime, but I may also just kind of check in with next week. And once I get to the end of the work week, I'll pop out and check your schedule. So, but if you don't hear from me until after the holidays, just know that was my decision to go, I think I'm just going to take a break and from all things and kind of shut down for a bit.
Great. Sounds good.
All right. Well, if I don't talk to you before, have a wonderful holiday.
You too.
All right.
It's nice talking with you.
Thanks. Great. Yeah, it was great talking to you too, James. Thanks.
Take care.
All right. You too. Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Zikri, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube, and they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.